In today's video, we will be attempting to beat Baldur's Gate 3 with a build as canonically similar to Amity Blight as possible. Since Abomination magic doesn't necessarily translate over to most TTRPGs, it'll be a bit of a stretch to see how Amity would fare without the aid of the Boiling Isles. As the Mind Flayer ship traverses through the plains in an attempt to escape the Githyanki, it happens upon the Boiling Isles and scoops up Amity Blight and most of the budget for Season 3. As for build, because Amity's pointy ears and the general disposition of the Boiling Isles, I feel Celadrine Drow best suits her. Because of the magical bile sacs that grant people of the Boiling Isles their supernatural abilities, Sorcerer is the appropriate starting class with the Wild Magic subclass. She does end the show as a Wild Witch after all. For cantrips, we see Amity shoot a tiny fireball in episode 12, so I went with Firebolt. Then Minor Illusion, because she can make a mini abomination to compel nearby creatures to investigate. Mage Hand, because that's pretty close to her authentic abomination powers. Then the Light cantrip, because it's one of the glyphs she learned from Luz. Since abomination magic excels in defense, Amity will be using the Shield spell, as well as using her Sludge to blind the enemy, so Color Splay will be the second. Since Amity is a daughter to the incredibly influential Blight family, her background is noble. Despite Sorcerer being canonically more accurate, I feel as though Amity should play more akin to a wizard, plus with her book smarts, I reallocated some stat points to boost her intelligence score and change skill proficiencies to insight and arcana. Coming to in a burning Mind Flayer ship, Amity frees a cute blob monster and temporarily allies herself with Lae'zel. After a brief history lesson on how Mind Flayers reproduce by putting their babies in people's brains and how we all have worms now, Amity, on theme, uses some glyphs to free Shadowheart, and the gang head to the control room. Blasting through some fodder demons, Amity is convinced to use the tentacled control panel to escape the current hellish environment of Avernus. Instead of teleporting her back to the Boiling Isles as she hoped, the Nautiloid ship crash lands on Faerun, ruining her potential return home. After waking up on a beach and making friends with the Goth from the Healing and/or Illusions Coven, leveling up, Amity still doesn't have access to many spells that make sense for her character, but in the past she has used her abomination powers defensively, so even though we already have a shield spell, I feel like Mage Armor is appropriate. We also see Darius use his abomination powers as a sort of supersuit, so we know they can be used that way. For meta magic, Extended Spell and Twin Spell didn't necessarily feel appropriate, but the other two options wouldn't match in the slightest. After fighting a couple intellect devourers, Amity comes across a portal with a hand sticking out of it. Attached to this hand was a wizard named Gale. Having a preference for magic users, Amity joins forces with Gale before reacquainting with Lae'zel, who has sadly been captured by some racists. Not really wanting to see an innocent person die, far as we know, Amity attempts to talk Lae'zel's captors out of killing her. Despite Lae'zel's snide behavior, Amity has turned over a new leaf since Season 1 and felt it would be right to spare Lae'zel regardless of the attitude. Fortunately, while she didn't verbalize her gratitude, Lae'zel invites the team to visit a creche and get vaccinated with her. Making their way down south, walking fast, they meet a party that is immediately suspicious of them. Where I would ordinarily kill and loot them in my playthroughs, Amity is much less of an asshole, so instead she warns them of the intellect devourer's dangers and lets them run to safety. Heading north, Amity and gang come across an ongoing battle between some humans, a tiefling, and goblins. Joining in the fight, they defeat the gobbers and head inside the wooden gate, entering the Druid's Grove. Gathering information from the locals, Amity learns things like the tieflings are going to get killed by goblins if they leave, the druids are trying to force them out, and some humans are looking for the Night Song. And Kagha's personality is uncannily like her mother's. After speaking to Nettie, she learns Halsin might quell the problems in the grove between the druids and tieflings. In search of a way back, Amity comes across Roland, a pupil to the famous Lorokin of Baldur's Gate. Believing he might be able to send her back to the Boiling Isles, Amity decides to head to Baldur's Gate with the tieflings. With her experience in combat magics, she plans to invade the nearby goblin encampment to secure everyone a safe route. It was just a hop, skip, and a jump straight into Goblin Town. On her way over, she runs into 3 people, one of which was dying and the other 2 decided to pick a fight. Following this victory, Amity hits level 3 and gains access to a level 2 spell. If you're here from the Owl House and don't know what that means, characters in Dungeons & Dragons can reach level 20, but spells cap out at level 9. Anyways, out of the new level 2 spells, Hold Person, Enhance Ability, Shadowblade, and Web all have similar effects to what we've seen Amity perform with her Abomination magic in their respective show. I'm leaning towards Shadowblade since it's the closest thing to Amity's Abomination Gauntlet attack. Plus, we see Darius use his abomination powers to cut things too, so we'll take a page out of his book. The rest of the spells that we have are relatively support oriented, so I'm going to give her Hold Person. As for meta magic, since Amity doesn't need to say any audible command for most of her abilities, I'm going to lean into that with Subtle Spell, so she can still utilize her abilities while afflicted with an anti-magic field. After getting some experience points off the goblin-ridden town and taking out Edelin, the team walks into the Saloon Temple and assassinates Priestess Gut before taking their first long rest. Afterward, they pay a deadly visit to Minthara. They barely survive the Minthara battle. Thanks to a silly goblin and Gale's stinky corpse, they were able to stall out the fight to safety. Low on resources, the gang takes another nap before continuing their investigation. Waking up to Shart and Lazel starting a fight, not wanting to hurt her allies, Amity tries to be diplomatic, and things work out for now. After resting up, they stumble across a goblin's prison and fight alongside a bear to wipe out more goblins. The bear turned out to be Halsin, who Amity has convinced to join in on the fight against the leader, Dror Ragzlin. After taking care of the hobgoblin, the team hits level 4 and gains access to their first feat and a new spell. Since there's been times in the Owl House where Amity has used her Abomination Sludge as a projectile, such as when she fought against Hunter in the Titan's Veins, I'm going to go with Magic Missile. For feats, I almost always go for Alert since the initiative bonus is broken, but that's a little bit meta and not on theme for Amity. Since she is a highly regarded student, I ended up picking Skilled and placed points into Performance, Investigation, and Athletics. With the Goblin Camp's triple threat triad gone, the gang sneaks out of the Goblin Camp and head back to the Druid's Grove with Halsin. While the Tieflings throw a party in Amity's honor, Lazel ends up flirting with her.
I mean to taste it.
Sadly, there was no dialogue option for having somebody else in mind, so Amity dodges the question.
You know the fortune of my company. Another fortune yet stands before you. A warrior's flesh, rarely tasted. Think if you must. The chance will pass come light of day.
Thus concludes the Save the Refugees quest, and they're able to make their way towards Baldur's Gate. Or so they believe. I've read on some forums that making it past the first 4 levels is the most difficult part of Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know if you're interested in seeing a part 2 with Moonrise Towers. I'll be making mostly the Owl House videos for the rest of the year, so if you're interested in that, maybe subscribe. Peace.